Fraser Ellis, the Independent MP for Narungga. Good to have you back with us on Flow in 2022.
Thanks for having me once again.
Great stuff. Look, we want to pick up, first of all, a chat about something you appeared in a photo about the overpass at Port Wakefield and the improvements there. I imagine a fair bit of traffic went through that part of the world during the holiday break.
I have to imagine so as well, Ricky. I did my best to stay on the peninsula, but I suspect there was quite a few vehicles going over that on the way back to Adelaide after visiting, and although it's not quite finished yet, and there's still quite a few traffic restrictions in place as it's still an active construction site, I think we're starting to see a picture of starting to see what the final picture might look like. Pardon me, and I suspect it'll have a wonderful benefit for traffic flow. So when it's all done and the roads are all fully opened and without impediment, I think it'll be a wonderful result for our community.
It'll be good for people on the peninsula, just not having to worry about the potential deadlock trying to get back to town or trying to rush to beat the intersection there. Yeah,
well, look, personally, I think the biggest benefit will be in road safety. It's been a treacherous corner for quite some time, and that danger will have been alleviated. And I personally think it will go some way to easing that traffic restriction. There'll be twice as many lanes going either way, so that has to have some benefit. And even if it doesn't solve it completely, I'm sure it'll be better than it was.
Now, there was an announcement made. Did Barnaby Joyce turn up? We didn't get an invite, but did you get an invite to the federal government's announcement about that late in the year?
Well, I visited the overpass at the end of last year. Barnaby wasn't there, unsurprisingly. He might have even been in his hotel room in Washington. I'm not entirely sure, but
speaking to the media from inside a microwave.
Corey Wingard and the Premier were there, and quite a few of the people that had been working on the site. So it was really good to see how it was all taking shape. And as I said, it's still a work site. There's still plenty to do, and still a few inconveniences there, but we're starting to see what the final product will look like.
Now, speaking of the Premier and Corey Wingard and others, you are keen to see them again face-to-face in State Parliament, I understand. You're keen for Parliament to come back. Usually doesn't this close to an election.
Well, we have risen for the year, and the Speaker, Dan Cregan, put a bit of a call out for interest in resuming Parliament for one more sitting week. And at the time at which we agreed Parliament would rise, the COVID was well and truly under control. Omicron was only just starting to emerge, and it seemed like things were going to track along quite peacefully over the New Year break. Since that time, though, obviously we've had somewhat of an explosion of cases, and we've been inundated with questions here in the Narungga office about RAT tests, about PCR tests, about vaccines for kids, and all sorts of things that I would like to put to the decision makers, those that are making these decisions that impact all of our lives. And the best place to do that, I think, so that there's accountability and transparency for the people that are being impacted by these decisions, would be in Parliament. So I'd be in favour of if the government wanted to call Parliament back, so I could put the questions that the people of Narungga are asking me to those people that are making the decisions.
Because how long a break does it end up becoming from, I think, was it early December you rose, until when are you scheduled to go back in terms of sitting in Parliament itself?
Oh, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously there's an election between now and then, and I'd never take for granted having winning the seat, so there's an assumption there that I would be back at all, but I think the next scheduled sitting week is in early May from memory, so it ends up being a 4 or 5 month break. But I have to say, Ricky, in defence of the current government, I've done the research of the past 4 elections, and this is consistent with all of those breaks. So for every time that the Labor Party were in government and Parliament rose for that term, this is consistent with those breaks that were afforded then.
Yeah, it's a consistent length of break, but does it make it right just because the major parties have agreed to do it? I mean, the Legislative Council's seen fit to resume in early February. Is there any reason why it should be a long 5-month break for MPs so they can be out campaigning for re-election?
Well, I wouldn't call it a break. It's been flat out in the Narungga office with all the aforementioned concerns with COVID and testing and vaccines and all of those sorts of things, so I wouldn't necessarily call it a break from work. And as to where the Parliament should sit in that break, I'll have to take it on notice. Having only been here for 3 and a bit years, or close to 4 years now, I don't know if I've had the experience to make a call like that. So.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see the makeup of the next Parliament. You've got the Independent Speaker, Dan Cregan, there. It could be tight with the numbers. But onto the issues you mentioned there, talk about RATs or rapid antigen tests. Have you been satisfied with the rollout into your electorate of the opportunity to get those testing kits?
there's been incredible demand from people wanting more access or improved access, and I've been working with really important institutions like the Ardrossan Community Hospital to ensure that they've got enough tests so that they can conduct their business of caring for our community. So I wouldn't have... my personal view, and it's easy to sit back and poke holes in things. It would be a lot tougher to have to make the actual decisions, but it would have been nice if we had used a bit more of the past 2 years of COVID's presence to prepare for this inevitable outbreak. And although Omicron has changed the game somewhat, it would have been nice to have had a stockpile ready to go of rat tests. So I'm led to believe that there'll be more collection sites. There's only one open at the moment in Adelaide, but there'll be more open around the state for close contacts to collect their 2 free tests. I'm doing my best at the moment to lobby to ensure that we've got a convenient one of them available in the Yorke Peninsula.
Yeah, okay. Look, we're only about 8 weeks out from, if I've got my math right, from this state election in March. You're running as an independent in the seat. I guess, first of all, I think we talked about it last year, but what's your position on if we have a hung parliament? Which way would you go with the Liberals or Labor if they're the two parties vying to form government?
I don't think. Well, firstly, Ricky, I'm still waiting to hear back. It's been 3 and a bit months and I haven't heard formally from the Liberal Party about whether they'll let me stand as their candidate yet. I sent that letter some time ago, but I think we have to assume that won't be the case, and I'll be running as an independent. And in that event, if I'm lucky enough to be returned, and I've said previously I'd never take that for granted, but if I'm lucky enough to be returned, I would certainly lean towards supporting the Liberal Party in the government. I don't think there's any point in creating a charade about what I might do. I was elected initially as a Liberal. I've been a Liberal Party member for quite some time and would certainly be inclined to support them into government. And it would take a miracle, perhaps, if I can use that, for me to support Labor.
Yeah, I see. Now, just on that subject, you're talking about your candidacy possibly as a Liberal. I mean, hypothetically speaking, what's the deadline for when that would have to be stitched up in terms of whether you go on the ballot paper as a Liberal candidate or an independent? I
don't know that answer off the top of my head, Ricky. I'm sorry. I imagine it'd have to happen rather soon. So, I'll be chasing up the Liberal Party for an answer for that in due course.
We might well do so ourselves. Fraser Ellis, great to chat with you, independent member for Narungga. We'll catch you again soon. Thanks for your time today.
Cheers, Ricky. Thanks for having me once again.